Chapter 14. A right royal pain. Hath he popped his cloggeth? The Molar sisters asked. If he has, can we eat him? Said Madam Macready, the geriatric banshee. She licked her crusty lips hungrily. Nancy had carried the prince inside, and he was now lying on a sofa in the reception hall with everyone huddled around. No one knew what to do, so we just stared at him. Grogber's subjects and guards and wives seemed very unsurprised that he'd fainted, so I guess this was something he did quite a lot. In fact, for the most part, they didn't seem to care at all, and a lot of them had already plodded off for a paddle in the swimming pool. He's dead, shrieked Wailing Norris. Don't be ridiculous, Mum snapped. Prince Grogber, Dad said, gently poking the little grey lump. He's definitely dead, moaned Wailing Norris. Norris, will you shut up? Mum shot the ghost an angry glare. He is, whimpered the ghost. I've never known anyone so dead. With every passing second, that goblin is getting deader and deader. He's the deadest thing I've ever seen. Ah! Prince Grogber screamed and sat bolt upright on the sofa as Wailing Norris reeled backwards and sprinted through the nearest wall. Where am I? Your Highness, Mum sat down next to the petrified-looking goblin. You're in the nothing-to-see-here hotel, on holiday. Holiday? Yes, said Nancy. You had a little fainting spell when you arrived. Maybe it was all the travelling, or your turban's on a wee bit tight. She reached down towards Grogber's red turban with its diamond brooch. Let's get this off you, dearie. Grogber recoiled from Nancy as if she was trying to yank off his head. No, he screeched, you can't have it. Nancy stopped in her tracks and gawped at the prince with 8 wide eyes. I'm onto you, you thief, you pirate. Grogber pointed a stumpy finger at Nancy. You'll never get your filthy hands on my turban, Nancy said. We all stared. What was the prince talking about? Had he gone completely potty? Silence filled the room. Grogber looked slowly around at all our shocked faces, then lowered his hand and smiled a nervous, wonky smile. Ha ha, he laughed a bit too loudly. Just kidding. We all carried on staring. Right, is there anything we can get you? Nancy asked, breaking the silence. Anything at all? Yes, said Mum, looking flustered. We're happy to provide you with anything you wish. Grogber looked about at the dozens of creatures surrounding him. Then his face twisted into a pompous, vinegary sneer. He stood up on the cushion he'd been lying on, puffed out his podgy chest, and wedged his tiny hands onto his hips. I am Prince Grogber, he yelled, ruler of the Golden Barrows, conqueror of the Dookie Deep, and I don't like this grottish, stinksome slum. Perhaps you'd like us to show you to your room, said Mum. We've saved you our deluxe penthouse. It's got a lovely sea view. No, shouted the prince. Not good enough. I want this room. This room? Mum looked like she was about to lay an egg. Yes, this room, you prattling pook. But this is the reception hall, said Dad. Don't care. Grogber shoved a hand in Dad's face. I want this one. It's got a high ceiling and my own private plunge pool. That's the fountain, Mum explained. Wrong, Grogber scoffed. It's my own private plunge pool. Now where are my servants? He clapped his hands. Musicians, dancers, call the royal foot massager. Before Mum and Dad could protest, a gaggle of goblins came running into the reception hall. Musicians gathered on the stone counter and instantly began playing, while others ran to the prince and started cooing and bowing. I want beds, lots of beds. More goblins came tripping down the staircase, carrying mattresses above their tiny heads. 1 or 2 still had bedsheets on them and folded clothes. That's my mattress, gasped Gladys Potts, pointing at the sheets with a little doggy bone pattern. Hands off, the prince hissed. It's mine now. Everything is mine. I don't think I've ever been speechless in my life, but at that moment I couldn't have spoken even if you'd begged me to. The knobbly little whelp was taking over the entire hotel. You, Grogber pointed at Nancy, I'm going to take a dip in my plunge pool and I want fresh spider silk towels. Make them now. A battalion of goblin guards surrounded Nancy and pointed their spears and swords at her. Nancy gasped in fright and started frantically weaving large fluffy towels out of web. It would be smart of you all to do exactly as I say, exactly when I say it, Grogber announced to the entire room. If you want to live, that is. With that, the prince dropped his silk robes to the ground and stood there, but naked, except for his turban and that stupid feather. Well, I never, the Molar sisters gasped. Grogba strutted towards the fountain, his plump grey bottom jiggling about like a pair of tiny overboiled chickens. Call forth the royal bubble blowers, Grogba bellowed as he lowered himself into the fountain. A team of goblin servants came running into the reception hall, clutching reed straws in their little hands. They circled the pool below the water witch statue, dropped to their knees and dipped the ends of their straws into the fountain. Then, taking deep breaths, they started to blow bubbles with every bit of lung power they could muster. That's better, said the prince. I almost thought I was going to have to live in squalor in this grotty holiday. Just when I thought Prince Grogba was going to relax and stop barking orders at people, his beady eyes looked on me. I suddenly felt panicked, so I just shrugged and stared at the floor. You hideous human child. I lifted my head and stared at the nasty little bogey in his bubble bath. The last thing I was going to do was show him I was nervous, even though I was trying very hard not to squirm. To the kitchen with you, Grogba barked at me. Fetch me frog grog, now. I wish I could tell you that I stood my ground and didn't move. I also wish I could honestly say that I shouted, "Get lost, you chubsome chunker," at the prince, but I didn't. Mum and Dad had me well trained to be nice to guests, so before I had time to think, I was halfway to the kitchen. Bummer.